Hopefully you guys all had fun. Made a bunch of avalanches. Got really wet. Got really windy. Oh, Pall Mall wins last week, by the way, Snow Basin. They didn't even open on Friday. They were like, screw it. Like, it had too many devastators. Just shut it down. Nicole's like, we're skiing down the road. We're calling it a day. Snow Basin gets up there. They're like, we're going to open Wildcat. Watch us. Watch us. Sick. Don't blow away. How long did you sit in traffic? Yeah. So Pall Mall wins last Thursday. So Snow Basin, you need to bring the heat. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So Maddie's gonna talk and Dave. They're gonna talk about something. I don't know. We didn't really talk about what they were talking about, so she's gonna wing it, I think. But yeah. So here you go. Here's Maddey Frey and Dave Frey, as I was told to announce your name.
Ooh, I don't know. Can you stand there? Is this a one? This is a one-person setup. So, oh. Okay. Yeah, we didn't really talk. Corey tried to text me multiple texts. Went somewhere, but we had no information until today. I was texting Brittany, so I didn't even know where this place was. So, and then we didn't have none of my presentations saved. So we'll see what after this first page. Could be just this first page of powder, and then might end. So. We'll start off with introducing myself, I suppose. Maddey Frey. Woo! Got to ease into this. So let's see about myself. I started ski patrolling in 2014 at Snow Basin before there was a sick wildcat lift that could withstand all winds. So yeah, I started in 2014 and there was already an exchange program going with New Zealand, and that was like the first thing you hear. There was already exchangers that came all the time, Richard and Aya, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do the exchange. So it was always in the back of my mind, which a lot of other patrollers had the same thought. And then next slide. Oh, and then in 2017, my third year, I went to Turoa, and this is a picture of young Maddie at Turoa. And then before that, Dave had already done exchange, so I'd already met him, but we weren't dating yet. And then we worked together here, and then we came back, and then we started dating. And I've been working so I've done 8 seasons at Snow Basin. I took 2 years off during COVID. And then I've done 4 seasons in New Zealand, 1 season here at Turoa. That was the initial one, which really isn't patrolling. It's just like a rescue team on a side of a volcano. And then we'll get into that. And then I've got the last 3 seasons have been at a small resort called Ohau. I can't pronounce the Maddey way, or Oho, because I'm American. Anyways, and we'll get into that as well. So just kind of that's my introduction. And then I know it was just my face on the poster, but there's this other guy here.
We're opposing heights here, so I'll put that up. Hey, thanks for coming.
I didn't say thank you, guys. Thanks, guys. About me.
Well, I'm Dave Frey, apparently. And I'm from South Africa, but I've been in New Zealand for the last almost 15 years. And I started my career at Turoa in 2012 and worked my way up from the de-icing program there to the patrol and snow safety. And then working in Oho down the South Island and with you guys in Snow Basin, where the greatest snow on earth, I've heard. Yeah, Maddie's just going to elbow me every time I need to talk. It's her presentation, so we'll give you a typical news night in New Zealand to start off.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Is the volume on? Is there volume? Ah. Yeah. I don't hear the volume now. It's okay. So we were. So we've been it's been like Corey said, there's been a lot going on these last couple weeks. So we've been really slammed this together in the last couple days, but we found some pretty entertaining news clips that maybe is just entertaining to us, but we're going to play. Is it playing? I can't hear it. Oh. Well, yeah. It was playing earlier. Oh, technical difficulties. Oh, God. Oh. Hey. Pause. It is 100.
Escape and see if
Oh, I don't want to escape. Oh, well. Should we just skip it?
Hey.
Well, it's just a really nerdy volcanologist talking. That's what I. Should I escape?
Next time.
Oh, God. Okay, next slide. It would have been funny. It would have got laughs, but it's fine. Okay, so I'll just do a quick overview. Yes. Where is New Zealand? So New Zealand is down here, this little island down in the South Pacific. So just a little overview. There's the South Pacific Ocean here, the Tasman, and the Pacific Ocean here. So I had to give myself notes. About 3,000 miles away from Antarctica, which Dave is going to kind of go into detail about how these oceans and where its location causes the weather that impacts New Zealand. So Turoa, which we were talking about in the North Island, is around 39 degrees south. And Trouble Cone, which is another resort down in the South Islands, about 44 degrees south. Snow Basin's about 41 degrees north, so that gives you any reference from down there. Oh, there we go. So here's New Zealand. It's about 1,000 miles long and 100,000 square miles. So that fits inside the state of Montana. So if that gives you any reference, I'm from Montana, so I thought that was a good reference. So this little island has a big punch of stuff that we're going to get into. So this is the North Island, is all volcanic. So there's a few ski fields or volcanoes that hold snow, which this one is Mount Rupehu, which we worked at and a few other people have worked at. There's 3 resorts on there. This is Natahoe. If you guys have seen Lord of the Rings, that's Mount Doom. And then there's also Taranaki on the coast. And then the South Island that has there, and now that's all alpine. There's it's called the Southern Alps. It runs about 400 miles, the whole length of the South Island. There's 30,000 square kilometers. I didn't change that to miles, sorry, miles for you guys, but 30,000 square kilometers, that's 11% of the country is alpine. So there's a stat that New Zealand has more alpine terrain than France, Italy, and Switzerland combined. So if you want to think about that, there is a lot in there that's hard to get to. So, and there's a big alpine fault that goes across the whole thing. There's multiple peaks that are over 3,000 meters, which is around like 9,000 feet, almost close to 10,000 feet. So a lot of these peaks hold snow, super glaciated, and it goes from the ocean all the way up. So when you think of, you're like, oh, 9,000 feet, that's not that much, but it's actually a big relief right from the ocean. So like the picture on, this is the West Coast, which is just all glaciated, and they get a lot of snow and a lot of rain. And then as we come to the east side, that's where most of the ski resorts are located.
I got the elbow. So yeah, typical winter will start in June and run through the end of August, and then spring starts in September and will run through to the end of November. So opposing to you guys down up here in the United States of America. And during these months, you can usually find skiing in both the North and South Islands. The real unique characteristics for New Zealand's weather is where it's located on the globe. So we're right in the roaring 40s, which is just a really unnecessary westerly that just smokes this little island in the middle of nowhere. And in winter, low pressure tends to gravitate northwards. So we have a lot of low pressure systems that spin around the Antarctic, around the whole of Antarctica. I'll show you some pictures later on. And as the sun moves into the northern hemisphere, they'll start to impact New Zealand. We typically have a west-east flow, which is pretty normal for the world, really. Even here in Utah, we tend to favor that west-east flow. And we have a situation where we get a lot of precip, so over 7 meters on the west side, and that tapers off as we go further east. So I managed to fit 2 words together that should never go, which is warm and moist, for Brittany over there. And and in New Zealand, we call that zone north of us pineapple and banana land. And then we go south, you can see Antarctica to the south of us, and that's the cooler Southern Ocean. To the west, we have the Tasman Sea, and down below the Southern Ocean, and then the Pacific Islands, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, New Caledonia. They're situated just north of us. So if anything you take from this picture is pretty much warm to the north and really cold to the south. This is some data from the from NIWA, which is the Atmospheric Research Organization in New Zealand. In the first slide, we have that median rainfall. So if we look at the west side, you can see a shit ton of moisture. And as we move east, way less. So some areas in the east are actually classified as deserts. That alpine range that Maddey was talking about really acts as a huge rain shadow for much of the eastern side of the North Island and South Island. If you look in the bottom of the corner of here where Fjorden is, it's one of the wettest places in the planet, and they get well over 7 meters of rainfall a year. And for y'all Americans, 275 inches of rain. For reference, I did have a Huntsville. I think Huntsville gets 80. Am I right, Corey? Oh, yeah. So average temperatures as well in the middle. You can see where the Southern Alps are situated. We have lower temperatures, and in the bottom of the South Island, lower temperatures. As we migrate north, we get hotter and hotter. When you get to the top of the North Island, we're in subtropical pineapples and bananas charco land for much of the year. And then as you get further and further south, it's just wet, cold, and rainy any time of the year. Sunshine hours, same again, bottom, dark, top, really, really light. Where my mum and where I'm from is just up here. And my mum's growing tomatoes and lettuces all year round. Bit of a world overview. So if we look on the slide on my right, we can see these low pressure systems. They tend to spin clockwise around Antarctica and they'll impact Patagonia, Southern Africa, Tasmania, and New Zealand. It's a really, really stormy corner of the world, and those storms will migrate and really affect New Zealand. And that's our main driver in winter. The slide on the left is a current weather map for the whole world. And if we look at the United States, we can see the low pressure system that's affecting Oregon and parts of the Pacific Northwest, and the series of lows that are spinning off Antarctica currently. And what we can see here is a typical synoptic chart for New Zealand during the winter. The slide on my right here, we can see those isobars are pointing south, so they're dragging up that cold air from Antarctica, affecting the southern portion of New Zealand. And the top portion is dragging those pineapples and bananas from Tonga and Samoa. So in this particular slide, the North Island is likely to receive rain, and the South Island is going to receive snow. As that passes through, the flow will change into the North Island, and those volcanoes will start to see some snow as well. What all this comes down to is just New Zealand's a really, really wet and rainy place. So I'll show you this next piece, and no sound though.
Just imagine.
Just imagine a microphone.
Continue.
Told to continue. So that's just getting our magazine dug out to start the morning's mitigation. Everything in New Zealand tends to take a little bit longer and is just a little bit harder. This is a current flow for New Zealand as from today, and you can really see those southern tracking lows. What was that? Antarctica, New Zealand, Australia. Who cares? Center of the universe right here. Another classic scene for the New Zealand ski fields is wind blowing around campers. So this is just the casual holiday experience if you come to New Zealand. And a friend of ours sent this next clip from Coronet Peak, which is a human being in a cone getting blown over. Oh. Just cap off your day with a cone to the face. So looking at snowpack, we have a close proximity to the ocean, which dictates a maritime snowpack for us. So due to these mild temperatures, NZ typically receives snow that is high in moisture content. These moist temperatures often create lower temperature gradients, which promote rounding and prevent persistent grain development. Many of the avalanches in maritime zones are due to instabilities within the new snow, which typically occur during the storm. And this is especially true for the North Island. However, there are areas in the South Island that are sheltered enough and further away from the divide that will get a continental or a maritime snowpack. And we'll show you a couple of pictures and videos of that later. So if we look at our avalanche fatalities for New Zealand, most of them occur July through the winter and into September, and then a spike in November and October. So that makes a bit of sense. During winter, we receive the most avalanches and the most snow. And then in November and December is the summer climbing season. So we get a lot of alpinists and mountaineers in the high peaks. This is our average snow line. So North Island, we're looking at about 1,400 to 1,600 meters. For reference, the valley floor is anything from 400 to 600 meters. And in the South Island, it's around 1,200 to 1,400. Again, the valley floor is around 300 to 600 meters. And the slide on the left here, that's pretty classic New Zealand snowpack, a structural skeletal snowpack. So we're looking at crust layers. And then on the right-hand side, that's Turoa. If you look, you can see the lifts on the horizon line, and that's a massive slide that's been triggered from a helicopter. And when we look at aspect, the main feature is those westerly winds just driving across New Zealand. And what we can see from that is that most of our avalanches occur on the eastern half, which makes sense. It's wind slab city, and the westerly just drives it into that side of the compass. And we love skiing. So with all that, how do we ski it? And for power and cold skiing, the best chance is the South Island. And that's Treble Cone, Oahu, Round Hill. These are areas that are typically sheltered enough that they can receive cold snow and hold on to that cold snow before the westerly blows it away. However, the North Island really excels in spring skiing. If those guys that have been there in the winter know that it's a long, hard winter, but when spring rolls around, it's well worth it. And then just a bit of information on where most of our avalanche facilities occur. Most of those are situated around Mount Cook, where we have a lot of mountaineering activity. And then down in the Aspiring and Two Thumbs Range, we start to get a lot of ski touring traffic. All right, Madison.
Well, I don't have to say as much because my link, I don't have Wi-Fi. So I was going to click on the New Zealand Avalanche Advisory, which is very similar to like the advisories that we have here. And it would have showed the whole region, New Zealand, and all the different forecasting regions. I'll kind of divide what I was planning on doing was kind of dividing it and conquering those regions, because our speech, we obviously have not been to every single region. We haven't skied every single resort. So we were going to just pull off of what we have done and kind of talk around that and give you guys an idea of like the different places to ski and what the skiing's like around New Zealand. So we're going to start with the North Island. And this is, both of us have worked there. Dave worked there longer than me. A few other people in the crowd have also worked on the North Island. This was a picture from where I lived when I lived there, of Mount Rapea with a big lenticular cloud over it. So I guess first things first, when you're skiing on the North Island, it is an active volcano, which is just crazy to me that you're just skiing on it. I wish we had volume, because I also have another news thing that would just show the active volcano and how the New Zealanders don't care. It was just basically a Kiwi talking, the mountain manager being like, oh yeah, it's all good, we're having a good time. And it's like blowing up in the background. But that was my attempt at it. So we'll go through that. Maybe afterwards I can figure out how this was another nerdy volcanologist. It was great footage. And just, oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah, turn the mic toward the speakers.
Now it doesn't even, there must be something on the slideshow. It's not doing it on here either. I don't know, there's no mute. Yeah, right. No, yeah, sorry. Oh, I'm so nervous to escape. See? Oh. Now press play. Now press play. Where? It's all the way up. This is in. Now it just, I don't even want to play through here, like on my own. It worked earlier. It's the HDMI. Something's happened with the HDMI. What? Talk amongst yourselves. This was the volcanologist. He was so good. Well, now it's. No. It's okay. It's okay. Now I'm worried. They won't even play this. It's the HDMI. It won't play through the HDMI. What? You're gonna know how to fix it.
Yeah, you plug it back in. Yep. Yep. I think that'll work. Oh.
Gotta go. Oh, which one was it? Hold. Oh, oops. Oh, God. I just want to show the first video to really get us started. Should we? That was a dry run. We're going to go over again. I just thought this was a very Kiwi news.
Took the ground. Next thing I knew, there were lumps of rock raining down all around me and impacting the ground. One man took this story. He man for his family and friends. Workers that seem like it does see in their own time.
But it was a news article on a volcano erupting, someone dying, and then workers had to write down that they will pee on their own time, not during company proper time. That was the news article. So that's why I wanted to start with that. Hold. Oh, God. We'll get back to where we were. This is technical.
Poisonous gas is spewing from Mount Pressure as the unpredictable activity continues. The threat of eruption has begun to this year. It's no danger to them. The gas plumes pose a significant risk to climates.
The first pictures from the crater of Mount Pressure show the latest spectacle nature is putting on. Every 10 minutes, the mountain gives up a cloud of poisonous gas, stretching up to 8,000 meters into the atmosphere. The city's toxic tantrums that has defined population warming silence of the upper reaches. Hurricane began removing 2 weeks ago, prompting volcanologists to raise the alert to level 2 and replace the volcano's exclusion zone. The possibility of further eruption has scares showing the best snow of the season, but the field is edging into
ski field. We've got 3 people up here today just having a ball. And that's for the steam show first as well. They don't feel very hard. Even if it is, something will make it collection activities. The ski fields are not at first.
Just thought it was really funny. You guys want to see another nerdy volcanologist?
Morning. Putting a huge ash plant. It was so dense, it was like raining. All you could do was put your helmet on back the front, lie down on the ground and just lie there.
Clear that as we continue up the mountain, activity is further to the point where seismic equipment installed in the summit overloaded and unable to record avalanche readings.
As close as you can get to the volcano, about 2 kilometers away from the crater. But even here, it's still not safe. And like that a few minutes ago, they released an enormous explosion and get raining molten rock raining there around bombs.
Our cameraman wasn't the only person braving the unpredictable eruptions first place to look. The couple retreated when we flew overhead. God has warned that sightseeing is extremely dangerous. Told people to stay off their path and come to float.
So those are some kiwis. That's the so that just wanted to give you that we are skiing on an active volcano. I'll have Dave kind of talk about the weather again and what skiing on this volcano is like.
So there's a few clips and videos in here. I'm not even sure I'm meant to put them out there, but we'll see how it goes. This I may explain like Jasper to you really, if you look at kiwis and what we see here. So so Turo and Whakapapa are world famous for their rime ice. There's just nothing around the mountains to stop any of the moisture that hits New Zealand or the mountains. So the particles start at the ocean and then they'll travel across the plateaus. They get super cooled at that point, and then when they hit the surface, they just instantly freeze, and you get these crazy. Thanks, wife. You get. She is my wife. You get these crazy these ice formation on these towers. Good to open. And then looking at that maritime snowpack, just a massive avalanche that's come through right next to the ski lifts at Turua. Somewhat. And a crown profile from this last season at Turua. This is just a natural event that happened overnight. They worked to this. If you were here last week with Hans, this is in the same area that the avalanche from hell occurred. This is quite interesting. So 2 snowboarders on the Crater Lake, and they've skied what is a north-facing aspect and been pulled into the Crater Lake. Both of them got a bit wet, but they walked away. This next video, I'll try and point this out a little bit better, but this is the top of the Hainan Express. That's a snowcat, and then the avalanche starts from up here. So that's the destruction from that particular slide. That was the cat that you saw getting tomahawked down the slope, and then this is the lift tower. That was a 1 kilogram avalanche around that triggered that particular slide, and we typically used to run that route by getting a snowcat as high as we could in the slopes above that top lift, and then jumping out of the cat, holding onto the side of the slope, and then passing ampho charges off the cat, and then skiing across into those start zones. And undeniably, we would have all perished if that had been the case. For those of you who remember John Hall, he was in that building when it got avalanche. So they all ran into the noon building and survived. This is that lift shack, and the snow just piling in through there. And then maritime snowpack, this is midway through a season in New Zealand, and it's 100% normal. You can just be starting with a great season, and then one event comes through and you get licked clean.
Maddey Frey.
I guess I'll talk a little bit. He's got more prepared for me. So, I've been pretty fortunate, basically just being with Dave to have ski toured all around Mount Ruapehu. So this is kind of an overview of just the ski that is available. So what you just saw slide, that is your access to the crater, which is kind of crazy that you have like a lift right below a massive avalanche zone. But that's one. So Ruapehu is an actual national park, so they can't restrict anybody from going up basically at any time. Sometimes you do have heli bombing and you'll try to close it off, but alpinists are like, oh, fuck that. We'll walk up and do whatever we want. So it's been awesome opportunity to be able to ski tour all around. There's many glaciers, but they always are filled with snow. They're basically just big snow fields. And I'll kind of just show that. So there's access from Turoa, Whakapapa, which is the other ski resort, and then a small club field called Takino. And like Dave said, the only time to really be doing all this is in the spring when you're skiing corn. So kind of crazy moonscape. If you guys have ever, there's just no trees. So that's going to be a theme here with everything that we're skiing and doing. There's no just me. It's me skiing. It's all about me. That's what he does, all the hard talk, and I'm just like, oh, it's me. So bad. But to tour around here, you do need to have sharps, so crampons, ice axe, ski crampons. So you're trying to catch where the solar aspects are softening, but if you miss it, it's it can be pretty intense. And we've definitely been in like some hairy situations where you're front pointing all your way up to the top, but then you get to a beautiful ski down if you've timed it well. Sometimes you it's me. I guess I can do. See how just the snow line ends. There's waterfalls. So this is basically the run out of, if it exploded, we would have been gone, because the Lahar, which is just like basically flowing hot water from the crater lake, just comes right through where we would have been. So that's kind of, that running water is hot water from the crater. So now talk about the South Island. So that now this is going to be more similar to what we experience here, but it's that whole Southern Alps. So the New Zealand Avalanche Advisory kind of divides it into all these different regions that they forecast. And we've really only been to, like, we worked at Oahu, which is more in the central area, and then Mount Cook, which is in the central area as well. And these are big zones, so we'll kind of work off that. But we do know people that have worked in the club fields. Some people here have worked at the club field, so I'll kind of explain that, and they're snowpacked as well. And then we'll work our way down south. So we'll go to the very top of the South Island, which we haven't been to ski, but here's a pretty picture of where you could ski. There's Dave in a paraglider in the corner. So talking about club fields, I think this is a really cool concept. It's kind of like there's hope for skiing in the future. So essentially a club field is just a club or a committee of people who manage and run a ski area. So the point of it is, all it is for skiing. It's not for profit at all. It's just so that they can get people skiing these different resorts. So these are the list of the South Island club fields here. If you ever get a chance, this is a movie. It's called Highway 73. Goes through some skiers going around to all the different club fields. But what's cool about these is it is about the skiing. So it is, if there's snow on the ground, they can turn a key and you're skiing. But it's extremely low maintenance. None of them really have chairlifts. This picture right here is of Temple Basin, and it's basically the only chairlift, and it's so that because you can't drive to the resort, so it's a little chairlift to put your skis on, and then you walk a couple miles to get to the base area. So it's very like small mom and pop feel resorts. Most of them don't have chairlifts. They have no groomers, if not limited groomers. They have no snowmaking. Is very little overhead, but it is just to have a lot of volunteers, small staffs, but the staffs do everything. So if you're a ski patroller, you're also like a lift mechanic, you're a barista, you're everything. And it's a pretty cool. So Hans isn't here, but I got photos from Hans. So he was in the Craigieburn range. This is more in below the Nelson area where Dave was paragliding, but it's in the northern part of the Southern Alps. So you can see all high alpine terrain still, beautiful views, great skiing. I think if Sierra's here, she worked here this last winter. So this is not actually at the club fields, but this is a rope tow. So if you guys have never seen a rope tow before, you wear like a harness around almost like a climbing harness, and then you have something called a nutcracker. Imagine cracking walnuts, and you're holding on to a rope to bring you up the mountain. So you have to not only get a leg workout, your forearms also have to be able to hold on. First time I've ever done it, it was terrifying because your hand's about like 6 inches away from the shiv wheels, and you're trying to get up the hill. People knocking. It's pretty impressive. Here's Dave coming up. This is the longest rope tow in the world. This is at Round Hill. So this is another forecasted region. Just so give you an idea of what. Oh, I messed up. So Hans is involved. So I don't know if you've heard about Hans Yelde, but I think Sarah might have even filmed this picture. But like I said, you just turn a key and ski patrollers are doing everything. This is kind of, oh God. Maybe we don't get to see Hans. Oh. So this is how, like, this is the engine of the rope tow right here. You just turn the key. It's a old tractor engine. Like, this is how, like, old low key this is. And we got a ski area. I don't know why it doesn't. Oh, God. That's Hans skiing powder. I think that's Sarah laughing in the background. Oh, there's an overlap with our, ow. Oh. We're doing so well. All right, well, good luck. It's all, it's all quandoed after that. I don't know why the OHAV page isn't going, so. Oh, actually, I haven't even started. I'm not done talking either. God. I got all confused. I guess the one thing I was going to say is kind of about the snowpack and the operation of the club fields. So they don't have snowmaking, they don't have groomers, they don't have much skier compaction. So it is basically an operation that when it's on, it's on. But if they, like most of New Zealand, huge rain events happen, which you take for granted what skier compaction and groomers and snowmaking do. You can kind of hold the ski area together. The minute there's a rain event on some of these club fields, their season can be like, it's night and day. It can be washed away. The roads can be washed away. So that is the thing about the ski fields. It's the club fields. It's an awesome experience, and it's really like crazy opportunity to be able to ski, kind of like the last resorts. But when it's off, it's off. Okay.
It might be done.
You can just skip ahead.
We're going to try a reset. This just represents the last 2 weeks of our lives, really. Oh, wheel of death. It's still frozen, but you get to take in Brittany. Talk amongst yourselves again. We're going to take a 5-minute intermission. We might be back in action. All right, we're going to give it take 5. So this is Oho. We've pretty much summarized our experience with the North Island and then the middle of the South Island, and then we're going to cap it off with the Fjorden at the end. But there we have Brittany and Maddey after control out on the ridge at Oho, just caked in ice after a solid battle. That's right. And the picture on the right is legitimate. These two characters came up, bought a ticket, rode the lift, and that's what they were going to ski that day. So just typical Kiwi. They found a pair of skis and they were going to do it. This is the top ridge of the ski area, just looking out onto the lake. Just a really picturesque part of the world. And then we're looking at the Oho ski area boundary. and then the two flanks on either side are really popular backcountry skiing zones. And then for being such a small operation, it has elements of quite a vast mitigation program. So this is our road, and a farmer just decided one day to cut a road out the side of a mountain and just put avalanche paths right through the middle of it. So in typical Kiwi fashion, they got up there, but they posed a real hazard for someone following them. Here's a helicopter view of our road. So often a part of the problem is just finding the road. We might need the technical expertise of Nick again. And then looking at the ski area, these are paths that directly affect the base area. And the one on the far left here runs to the car park. And rolled into the day lodge one day, and this guy casually came over to me and says, "Oh, I had an interesting thing happen to me a couple of years ago at Oho, and yeah, we were starting our car, and then a bunch of us just got buried in our cars in the car park." And it was like, "Oh, that's really interesting. Like, tell me more." But these things just tend to get forgotten. But yeah, they've pretty much put a ski area just in the cirque of avalanche paths. And this is the old cat shed. So it used to be in the car park, and then it was removed a couple of 100 feet down below. And that's the northern flank of the ski area. And a lot of those paths will directly impact the lift. And a typical New Zealand style, even if you're on patrol one day, you get roped into mechanic work. So just refixing a bull wheel that's been bent through the day, and about an hour of work, and then we just had guests skiing again. And then the picture on the right, my second sled that's caught on fire and been ridden off. This time with a pack of bombs on, so not the nicest sensation when you take a face full of flames with 10 kilograms of ammo in your backpack. And then just some MD 500 or 600 action for you guys, the Ferrari of the skies. Often just getting to the ski area is quite a challenge. So if that's the case, there's always a farmer in the valley who's willing to fly you up on his helicopter. And then using the chopper really is a huge part of the job. A lot of the terrain is just so inaccessible. You would not be able to climb or get there with explosives. So here's Maddey with easily double her weight in ampho. And then some debris piles on the road. So that road just cuts mid-path through all those start zones. And even after, these are post-control releases, so even after putting, I think that day we put 200 kilograms of explosives in the upper cirques. Once the sun hits it, it just does whatever it wants to do, and this is the outcome of that. Luckily, we weren't open, but it does happen occasionally where we're open and the slide will impact the road. And then the mountain manager, just casually embedded in a snowdrift. He actually got blown off the road in a Land Cruiser, and there's a hairpin turn that we came around, and we looked up and we saw the tail end of his truck hanging off the side of the road with a 3,000-foot drop below him. So we tried to turn around, and Maddey had to get out of the car, and she opened the door and got picked up off her feet and just thrown across the road, luckily in the direction the road was, but it's wind that moves humans. guides, patrollers, whatever it can. Big part of our job is just getting up really, really early and getting out on the slopes way in the dark. And we skin up to the ridge lines and do the mitigation with skins and a headlamp. How do I get the sound back, Nick? Oh, you escaped.
Quit. I think that's the one.
Thank you. Imagine wind sounds. We're trying our best over here.
Oh, shit.
Just picking up an average night of destruction. And compared to the signs that we have at Oho, that's way thicker gauge aluminium, and it just didn't even stand a chance. But on its day, great skiing. It's we're really showing you the extremes. Imagine powder skiing. And then looking at, this is a zone within the ski area that unfortunately claimed life in the 90s. As a ski area worker was working on top of the lift, and this pulled out and buried them. 2 people that were actually standing on the lift tower. Then more of the access road. Just destruction. And I'm handing over to Maddey.
So another place that we've been is, how do you say the Maldi word? Aoraki, Mount Cook, which is the English way of saying it, Mount Cook, or not saying it. Anyways, this, if I was going to show you the regions, Mount Cook is just north of Oahu where we are, but this area, this forecasted region is much more closer to the divide. So everything that you've been seeing with the ski fields, like the club fields and Oahu, and then when we're going to talk about some of the commercial fields, they're more on the eastern side. So they're getting like the trickle effect of the westerlies. This region is more inland, and this is another national park. So there's no ski resorts here. There is heli skiing, and then this is a big mountaineering area. So I think with the last one of the slides, there was like 37 fatalities there in the last little while. So, I mean, if you've ever heard of like Sir Edmund Hillary, who's the first person to climb Mount Everest, this is kind of where he's got his start. So we have had the opportunity just to charter a flight in and do some ski touring on a pretty amazing couple of days here. So just kind of want to show you like the innards of the Southern Alps. So the only way, there's a very, very long hike in or a helicopter ride in to access this terrain. So right now, this is like late winter season, so most of the crevasses are somewhat filled in, but it is glacier travel still. And this will have snow like all year round. So if I was going to show you the New Zealand Avalanche Advisory, which I wanted to, this is still the only advisory that's being submitted daily on the advisory because there's still people mountaineering and there's still snowpack. Literally 2 days when I was doing this slide, they had storm slab, which I don't know how they had storm slab above 3,000 meters, but so this us climbing up big seracs. putting alpine huts on the middle of nowhere. Some pretty cool crevasses, good skiing, big avalanches. So I just wanted to show you that. That's big area that gets a lot of snow, a lot of activity, a lot of travel with mountaineers. And way to access that is chartering your own flight and going around. There's multiple huts in there, or doing some heli skiing, which is pretty cool. So the next thing I was going to talk about, keep going south, is just the commercial fields, similar to what we have here. Big commercial fields that hold a lot of people. The top one, that's Cadrona. That's where Brittany went. So a lot of big jumps, a lot of trauma, not a lot of steep slopes, not a lot of control work, but everyone. So I kind of consider that like the Park City of New Zealand. It's like the bunny slopes, big jumps, and then this is the center of the Universe Alta. This is where all the free ride tour people ski, and it's got a really cool ridge line, really good skiing, but also imagined. My dad came and visited me. This is Treble Cone. This is my dad and Dave looking out over the valley. So all these are all the commercial field: Treble Cone, Cadrona, Coronet, Remarkables. Those are kind of all the southern part of the South Island. Mountain Huts up by Christchurch. So if you're accessing any of these, if you want to come to New Zealand, if you fly into Christchurch, which is more on the eastern side, northern part of the South Island, you've got Mount Hut, and then you've got all those club fields. And then if you fly into Queenstown, that's the other hot spot. That's kind of going to be your like Salt Lake City flying in, and that's how you're going to access all the other commercial fields. So that's kind of the big Remarkable range, one of the ski resorts, and then that is one of the most photographed trees in the world, the Wanaka tree. So, and another very cool town. That's where Brittany lived when she was here. So just giving you guys some information when you were here. So I'm just really quick.
So we started up north with the North Island, which is a pretty ridiculous place. And then we got to the middle, which is somewhat normal and closer to what we experience here. And then we get to Fiordland, which is in the bottom of the South Island. It's one of the wettest places on the planet, and it has a really, really unique avalanche program. And we'll start with another little news clip.
You guys don't have me to hear. He's just practicing his speech for the camera.
But yeah, they got the shots. And what's really interesting about Fiordland is they've developed the reference point in the world for predicting wet snow avalanches. And they've developed a lot of tools and strategies to keep that road open. So it's economically hugely viable to New Zealand. It gets well over 1 million tourist visitors in a year. And they used to just keep it closed during winter. But New Zealand being a tourist-based economy, they need to keep it open. And they've formed an alliance between a road crew and a forecasting network that can keep this road open during the winter. There's also a huge commercial fishing interest in Milford, so they want to keep that open. And they've developed some really interesting tools. So remote forecasting has become their real bread and butter there. They have ELISA meters, which they'll measure the volume of water moving through the snowpack. Extensometers, they'll measure the downward creep. Roving snow poles, measuring the temperature within the snowpack. They have weather stations dotted all around Milford, and remote weighing equipment. They've also and most recently used a lot of LiDAR technology to map out the start zones. And they've even taken LiDAR photos of crowns and moving avalanches. And that's all their passive control. So that's what they use to manage it passively. They'll use road closures, manage travel movements, and then they just will give information to guests and road users. And that's the way the road travels. So right through the Darren Mountains. It's a really vertical world. It's not too dissimilar to Norway, where you have 3,000 vertical foot walls and then cirques just on top of the walls. So going through there, you might not necessarily see that there's avalanche terrain above you, but there's a lot of avalanche terrain above you. And everyone comes here to see this and take a cruise on the fjord, see some keers in the Homer Tunnel. And from the ground, you look at that's Roland Frey, Maddie's dad, and a Cheeky Kiwi on the right. And if we look at Homer Tunnel, that's right there. You would never know that there's a huge amount of avalanche terrain above you. That's a large wet slab triggered from a helicopter. And then they bury the road, and then they just get to digging it out. No sound. Maddie again.
Okay, one of the last things we're going to talk about here is just like, we kind of talked about all the regions, a little bit of everything and how the different snowpacks and everything, but I think my last slide, this is an old, anyways. So every part of the New Zealand, it's very small. Like I said, it can fit in the state of Montana, but yet you can have such a diversity between the North Island and the South Island, and it's only 1,000 miles long. So this is what we were experiencing this last season. Was we only had, for our base, the entire season was 60 centimeters. Me doing a test. Me. I would be counting right now. Two. We didn't have to actually like use a scope at all the whole season. They were just well developed the entire season that you could pick up in your hand. It was pretty amazing. This is what was happening in Trouble Cone. So it's basically us down, had this persistent layer the entire season. And it wasn't great. And then I don't have photos, but when we were talking about the North Island, they were skiing powder all season. Like they were actually having cold powder while we were like barely getting snow, and like we'd get 2 inches in wind and we'd be bombing everything because we'd be terrified. So this, yeah, the summit of Trouble Cone from a heli bombing. I'm glad that I've got Brittany involved. You are not. So this was most our season. This is our southern aspect part. All those slopes that would impact the car park weren't a problem. But then that where we were doing that rope tow was like at the crow flies. How far away is Round Hill? 40 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles, but so just north of us, you could just see there was a line. So Mount Cook is in between us and this resort here. And on this particular day, Oahu got 2 centimeters. Sorry, that's nothing. And then this place got 30. And so we went here, and it's only like just it was just across, just over the hill, basically. So it's more pictures of me skiing. Got a little Hans in me, I guess. Oh yeah. So it's just crazy, just where you go, like it can be so different in such a small little country. So on that same day, we got engaged. Oh. I guess we're getting.
Right, we're near the end. So the InfoX it's quite similar to what we use here in the States. It's formatted a little bit differently in New Zealand, but it's become a really effective tool for operations to communicate information. And since every outfit is so remote, it's become a really, really good tool to give information to neighboring forecasting regions. While we were doing en route, Treble Cone was getting those huge results off the summit. And we got the information and we could alter our plan to open for that day. So it's really useful. And it's used by everyone. There's a snowshoeing outfit, there's outdoor education centers, heli ski operations, all the ski areas and the avalanche forecasters all use the same tool. And this is generally the flow of the information. So we'll populate this as forecasters, and then the whole team can read it. It algorithmizes our thinking, so the flow is really, really good. We often find that after a big week of managing storms and people and snow, you can get complacent, but when you go through each step in the New Zealand InfoX, it helps you think of things that you might not recognize. So it's like, oh, there might be wind, there's avalanches happening in other areas. It makes you talk about the snowpack and then identify a hazard. So all really important things when you're managing an operation. Maddey Frey.
Okay. So I think just for you guys' information, if you're going to New Zealand, we tried to talk about the ski fields, and now I'm just going to talk about access. I kind of talked about Mount Cook, how you can helicopter in. So helis are basically a big aspect of getting in. All the access roads are pretty gnarly. We were talking about it. Dave showed a lot of videos. So it's a lot of them are just backcountry roads cut into a side of a road, side of a mountain, and big drop-offs on either end. That's basically all the club fields and most of the resorts are pretty gnarly roads. And these are some aerial photos. Yeah, both of them are OHAL. This is from our plane was landing in Queenstown, and looked out the window and you could see our ski field. So these are this is how you to access skiing. We take our skis for long walks. So these are some pictures of us walking with our skis. Heli is always a good option. A lot of people, and it's got absolutely amazing terrain, but it just takes a little bit more effort to get into these areas. But it is still pretty equipped. Like a lot of these areas have huts. I think we looked up, it's 250 huts. Was it 950 huts across New Zealand. And some of them are super bougie, and some of them are just a tin box. But they're very cool. It's very similar to Europe in that way. So here's a few that we have been to. Like here's the inside of like a big alpine hut. So just for your guys' information, you've got huts, you've got helis, you've got big hikes in, you've got commercial fields, you've got club fields, you've got pretty amazing spring skiing in the North Island, you got powder skiing in the South Island, and you also have oceans. So you don't have to go there in the winter. So there's some amazing surfing. You've got surfing during the winter, just like an hour away from most ski fields. Got kayaking, paragliding, hiking, and sand skiing. I was requested to get my sandpit video. I need internet to do it, but this is so someone can give me this hotspot. I can find it for you, but I can do it at the end. Is there any questions for Dave or I? We're ending it. The technical difficulties are done. Thanks for bearing with us through that roller coaster. It does spin the other way. Just like the toilets spin the other ways. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Was your food good? Was the beer good? Okay.